Welcome to our attendees. Maybe as you are joining, you can introduce yourself if you feel comfortable, and where you're calling in from. Um, just go in chat and let us know where you're joining us in from. And as you are joining, I'm hoping this we can still have the poll. We have some questions for you to try and understand your interest in this topic. And so as you're joining in, please take a look at the poll and let us know. Have you ever worked on developing your personal brand? What aspects of personal branding are you most interested in learning about? And what challenges have you faced in building your own personal brand? So just go ahead and let us know. And the results of the poll and what you give us, we want to make this a dynamic session. And so we'll be looking at your answers to these questions and driving the conversation in that direction. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We want to know, have you ever worked on developing your personal brand? What aspects of personal branding are you most interested in learning about? And then what challenges have you faced or anticipate facing in building your personal brand? And again, as you're joining in, please just let us know, introduce yourself and let us know where you're joining in from. I think at this moment, I'm going to get us started. We're going to try and be strictly to time. We've given ourselves an hour for this more formal part of the conversation. Here are the results of the poll. Oh, this is really interesting. Have you ever worked on developing your personal brand? About 33% of you say yes, actively working on it. And another 33% of you say, I've made some efforts, but nothing consistent. 25% no, but I'm interested in starting. 8% no, and I'm not sure where to start. What aspects of personal branding are people most interested in? 82% defining brand identity. There's 45% that are saying building an online presence. Content creation and storytelling is a big one, 55% of the folks. Monitoring and managing brand reputation, 36% think that is an important topic. And then what challenges have you faced or anticipate facing? There are 55% who really selected understanding where to start is a challenge. 45% of folks feel consistently producing content is a challenge. Growing my network right neck on neck with another 45%. And then defining my unique value proposition, 64% of you think that is a key question. So again, welcome. I see more folks from Zimbabwe, folks from the Caribbean. Someone is in Gaborone in Botswana. Again, just a beautiful global conversation that we are about to embark on. And so let's get started. My name is Dr. Wanjiro Kamau Rutenberg, and I am the founder and executive director of B-WEL, Black Women in Executive Leadership. And at B-WEL, we do a couple of things. One is we are building a connected community of Black women in executive leadership, a community of mutual support and mutual learning. And this masterclass is very much a part of that support and learning, mutual learning. A second thing that we do at B-WEL is generate new insights and new knowledge, particularly relevant and focused on Black women's leadership experiences. And so this masterclass, I guess, again, aligns with that because whereas there's other conversations happening about personal branding and especially personal branding for women, this conversation is really focused on knowledge on personal branding for Black women. And we know we face some specific challenges and opportunities. And then a third piece of the work that we're really interested in B-WEL is acting in the world, moving, partnering, building partnerships, and acting to shift systems and structures and interrupt and disrupt the way patriarchy and anti-Blackness works, especially in hindering Black women's ability to contribute to leadership and solving some of the world's most pressing problems. So that's B-WEL in a nutshell. And today, we are going to be talking about personal branding. In today's competitive professional landscape, cultivating a strong personal brand is crucial, not only for seizing new opportunities, but also for wielding influence and driving change. Your brand isn't just about self-preservation. It's about determining who pays attention to you and how your authority is acknowledged and respected. This masterclass is tailored for executives seeking to craft a personal brand that reflects their professional accomplishments and aspirations, while also enhancing their ability to influence and effect change, with a special focus on addressing specific challenges faced by Black women, such as online harassment and stereotyping. Today, we will be providing practical strategies, tools, and tactics to mitigate and address obstacles while supporting you to stand out from the crowd authentically. You will learn how to define your unique value proposition, gain clarity on what's driving your needs and desires for a better brand, and devise strategies to get recognized for your work. And to lead us through today's conversation, we have two amazing speakers. Let me start with Themba Khumalo, who joins us from Zimbabwe. Themba Khumalo is one of Zimbabwe's leading voices when it comes to brand building, business growth, and personal development. A winner of multiple awards, both at home, across the region, and globally, she is a founder and managing director of Brand Builder, a high-performance brand strategy firm that helps entrepreneurial leaders and organizations they lead achieve more visibility and growth through comprehensive brand strategy, creating execution and social media content strategies. Known for her clarity and courage, Themba Khumalo's leadership track record includes board positions in listed, unlisted, and not-for-profit entities. With more than 20 years in the media and communication industry, she delivers a network of high-level relationships across many industries in several African countries. Themba's areas of expertise include many aspects of media, having worked in television, publishing, print distribution, and advertising, with experience on both the agency and client side of the business. Having been part of a number of startups, both successful and unsuccessful, she's ideally poised to advise on the risks and rewards of starting and growing a business in Africa. Much of her work involves providing support for startups as a coach, a mentor, and a trainer as well. Welcome and thank you so much, Themba, for joining us and agreeing to share your wisdom and especially the African contextual knowledge on this topic. Also joining us is Kosi Harris, who's joining us from New York in the US. Kosi Harris is an accomplished public relations specialist with over 15 years of experience in the field. She has honed her expertise across a diverse range of sectors, including nonprofit, consumer product, and hospitality. Throughout her career, Kosi has represented esteemed clients such as Leanne Mayer, Every Library, Time Warner Center, the American Heart Association, Peru Tourism, Tourette Association of America, and Reebok Watches. Known for her ability to amplify brand voices and enhance client visibility, Kosi has cultivated strong relationships with press, media outlets, and influencers. Her work has been featured in prestigious publications such as Essence Magazine, Hello Beautiful, Harper's Bazaar, Fatherly, Thrive Global, USA Today, Forbes, People Magazine, BuzzFeed, The New York Times, Yahoo Finance, Business Insider, CNN. And she was spotlighted by Rebecca Minkoff in a Black female founder spotlight for Black History Month. Kosi holds a bachelor's degree in advertising and marketing communications from the Fashion Institute of Technology, and she furthered her education with a master's degree in new media and public relations from Southern New Hampshire University. Currently based in Brooklyn, New York, Kosi is passionate about technology and proudly identifies as a self-proclaimed geek. Last fall, she conducted a workshop with the Female Founder Collective on PR marketing strategies during challenging times, further showcasing her expertise and commitment to the field. Welcome, Kosi. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, let's get right into it. And I'm going to start with our first question. And let's come to you, Tembe. Let's focus on building your brand foundation. And I have three interrelated questions for you. And really, you can take it from either direction. First, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities for Black women building their personal brands in today's digital landscape? And then I'm curious, what are some of the common mistakes you've seen people make when building their personal brand? And how can those mistakes be avoided? And then finally, also related, what steps do you recommend for defining and understanding your target audience to tailor your messaging effectively? So this is really the foundational work. Over to you.
Thanks so much. And I'm so excited to be here. Thanks to everyone who's attending. And I really believe we're going to get a lot of value from this conversation this evening for me. So let's start with the challenges. You know, as a Black woman, it begins at a very early stage in your life. So from childhood, you are playing different games from boys. You are keeping safe. You are engaging in things that seem good at the time, but what they're doing really is limiting your confidence. And so when you come into the workplace as a Black woman, you are now bringing some of that fear into that space. You're bringing more tentativeness into that space. You're bringing quite a bit of imposter syndrome into that space. And you don't have a lot of other Black women that you can look up to that can form role models. So as they say, you can't be what you don't see. So all of that really works together to make a lot of women reluctant to press forward and build their personal brand, build a profile, be more proactive about being seen, being heard, building authority in the workplace. And so you've got a lot of internal struggles that you are trying to overcome. And, you know, as we know, the internal battles are usually the toughest. And then you've got challenges with your external community where perhaps you are judged more harshly because you're a Black woman. You are more, they'll see you more because you're in a minority. Because surprisingly, even in places like Zimbabwe and many other countries in Africa, although Black people are a majority in the population, Black women in the senior leadership space are not a majority. So you will stand out. And everything you say and do is going to be scrutinized a lot more than anyone else. So those are some of the challenges that women face. But like many challenges, they also constitute opportunities. So, for instance, the fact that you are maybe one of a few only also means that differentiation becomes much easier. And that is really the key value of building a brand. It's to differentiate yourself, to make it easy for people to see and choose you. Another opportunity is that we're living in a time where there is so much variety. There is a platform for every kind of person, you know. Uh, if you like, let's say you're more visual, you want to be on Instagram, you want to build your brand there. If you want to keep a more serious outlook, you want to be on LinkedIn and build your brand there. There's just so many options and opportunities, even within each platform, for women to build their brands. Another opportunity is that there's so many learning opportunities, so many platforms, so much guidance, which is free on the internet, on all of the social media platforms, as well as just through your general search engines. So the idea that you don't know how to do something is just something that you need to press forward against, because the opportunity to learn how to do it, how to build your brand, how to profile yourself is enormous, enormous. And then, of course, there are communities. There are online communities of other Black women that you can then become part of. You can share, you can learn, and it really makes it a lot easier than it was sort of in the pre-social media days to build your personal brand. Coming to your second question about common mistakes that people make, I would say probably the biggest mistake is putting too much pressure on yourself. So you are, for example, maybe you decide you're going to post every day, but you've never posted before. Or you're gonna, you want to have these really glamorous shots and perfect backdrops and wonderful, a whole set that you want to build for your channel. And a lot of those things make it difficult for you then to be consistent, because time, because skill, because energy. It takes a lot of energy to create content consistently. And so I would advise people getting started to keep their goals very, very manageable. Don't try to do too much, too fast, too soon, on too many platforms. In fact, I would say pick one platform and then master it before you can move on to something else. Another mistake that I think people make is faking it. I think, you know, the pressure to seem glamorous, seem that you have it all together, seem like it's all working, can really put a damper on things, and sometimes can even make you unable to then create content and post it, because it's not perfect and it's not showing the life that you want people to believe. So authenticity, I think, is a big key thing that people need to just embrace, and to know, actually, when you are more authentic, people are likely to like you more because you're more believable and more relatable. And yeah, I would say, coming to your final question, which is what steps one can use to define and understand the audience, I think everything starts with purpose. So if you don't know the purpose of a thing or the purpose of an activity, it's easy to abuse it or misuse it. So you want to have a lot of clarity about, what is my purpose for being, for example, on TikTok? Am I just there to enjoy? Or am I there to build a brand? Am I there to advance my career? Am I there for research purposes? You know, there's so much on social media that you can almost get anything from anywhere. But you need to know where you are, where you're planning to be visible. What is your purpose? Are you planning to become a celebrity? Are you planning to get appointed onto a board? Are you building a business? You know, all of these things are possible and all of these things are good. But if you don't know which one you are, then it becomes easy to get very mixed up. in the channels, the content, the type, is it audio, is it video, is it long form text, is it all of these things? So definitely you want to be clear what your purpose is and who your people are. So who do you want to influence on your way to achieving your purpose? Who are the people that are going to support that purpose, that are going to make it happen? Stakeholders, in other words. And then you kind of want to find a balance between the platform that you enjoy and where your stakeholders are. Because there's no point posting a whole lot of content in a place where the audience that you're looking for doesn't show up.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, those are the key things.
No, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm hearing differentiate yourself, don't do too much, pick a platform. It's okay to pick just one. That point on don't fake it, and being authentic really landed for me. And then the purpose of what you're doing. I'm going to challenge our audience. She also talked about online communities, and I'm going to challenge us to post in the chat. What are some of those online communities that you are aware of that in the name and in towards the purpose of mutual learning? What are some of those online communities that you are a member of that might be other folks on the call might find interesting? Kosi, do you have anything to add to that before I come to you?
Yes and no. It kind of goes into the points that you're going to talk to me about. I realize it kind of goes to my story of how I actually identified my audience.
Okay, so let me.
So then interesting. I was just like, oh my goodness, yeah.
She teed it up perfectly for you. So then let's come to the topic of choosing your platform and voice. And the question is, when leveraging communication channels, how do you identify and utilize the platforms that best suit your personal style and audience preferences? Again, previously teed up. Second question is, what emerging tools or platforms, LinkedIn News, Substack, do you see as valuable for personal branding efforts? And how can individuals leverage those new tools effectively? And then finally, how does one navigate that balance between personal authenticity and professional representation in your own online presence and branding efforts?
Right. Yeah,
I'm tempted to ask about the hair question.
Yeah, I could actually talk about that as well. I could tell you a story with that. So before I had my professional Instagram page, I used to put everything on my personal Instagram page. And I'm getting into a lot of trouble for that with an agency I used to work for, like violating a lot of boundaries, like clients getting into my DMs. It was bothering me a lot, actually. And I ended up just not posting any of my work, actually damaging me because no one was seeing what I was doing, right? So because I was so afraid of being called out that I'm not focusing on this client and that client. So I wasn't posting anything at all, which was, hurting me. And I wasn't being authentic to myself when you think about it. So then during the pandemic, I ended up just making my own Instagram because I remember Instagram is one of my favorite platforms to do. And that's one of the advice that I want to give. Like, if you have a favorite platform, start with that platform first and perfect that. And then if you want to do another platform after probably 4 to 6 months, measure that, see in terms of just like how many followers you get, how comfortable you are in terms of posting. Don't have a goal of I want to get 1,000 followers. Start with if you want to have 500 followers the first 6 months, start off with that. And then if you want to get into TikTok, depending on what your brand is, because I know if you're a nonprofit, then you shouldn't be on TikTok. And also you can't be on TikTok if you're a nonprofit in the US, but if you want to do Twitter or a LinkedIn or a Substack. So my point is that start with the platform that you're comfortable with. That's question one. In terms of question two, LinkedIn News, I think is great in terms of just if you're an industry insider, if you want to post about example from like the Wall Street Journal that's in your industry, or something that you're doing, like example, like a panel like this could be great as one, or an announcement that your company's doing is great. I think Substack's great for content that you're talking about in regards to like big like wins in your company. I think it's great to doing like, once every few weeks, and you don't feel pressure to post every day. I think that's what's great for a Substack. Substack reminds me of just one of those like monthly newsletters, but I feel like it's also connects you to more people that you could also connect to and that are in your same industry. That's similar to a LinkedIn, but it feels more intimate, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think podcasts too are also great in terms of like reaching audiences. And I also think Clubhouse Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces are also a great way that you can also connect with audiences, that you could see like personal branding efforts as well, and you can leverage them effectively.
Are there any other, I hadn't thought about Clubhouse. Are there others that we should be thinking about that we might not be?
Twitter Spaces is one of them as well. That's similar to Clubhouse.
Okay. And there's that new Netflix documentary that came out about Black Twitter. I'm just curious what you thought about that.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I think they also made a good point talking about like how the creativity of Black Twitter brought out what's happening with like TikTok, and the creativity that's happening in terms of like these content creators of TikTok and how they are taking over that space. And no matter what's happening with TikTok, we're going to see something else coming out of that.
Are there spaces that are online spaces that are particularly Black friendly? I mean, I think it's maybe a bit of an unfair question, but one of the things I worry about is trolling and harassment.
Absolutely. I think that's everywhere. I definitely think TikTok is great for Black creatives, even though like the payment issue is, in terms of like Black creators getting their fair share is always an issue. I definitely think the creativity is very inspiring to see, that I haven't seen before, that I don't see on Instagram. I think that's why they're a bit threatened by it and why there's so many issues with them. I think Black creators are getting their due in regards to terms of like money and the visibility. I mean, Risa Tisa and like the storytelling that she did, and like these deals that she's getting, and how she created her personal brand just by telling what she went through is proof of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for those of us, especially pursuing executive careers, not so much content creators, LinkedIn?
Yeah. For LinkedIn, I definitely think like blog posts are the way to go for LinkedIn post.
What posts?
Oh, for LinkedIn, like doing blog post, I would do a frequency maybe just like once every 2 weeks. Yeah, depending on like depending on your topic, and also to connect with other people that are connected in your industry, like commenting on their posts, adding them on LinkedIn, like commenting on their work, and also too, when you're adding them on LinkedIn, and just don't add them. Mention what you saw on their LinkedIn that makes you want to add them. I think it's very important.
Lovely. Okay, Tembe, I'm gonna come back to you and take a different kind of direction. And let's talk about building your brand presence. How can one use social media as an executive versus as an entrepreneur versus as an influencer? And then connected to that, what are the constant demands for content production? Are there any strategies or tools that you recommend for managing time and impact effectively? What are your thoughts on using ghostwriters or editors? That would be really interesting. And then finally, what strategies can individuals use to increase their follower count and engagement on specific media platforms? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or should we not be worried about increasing follower count? Tembe, talk to us.
This is a very important distinction to make, particularly if you're an executive, because so much of what you do is under scrutiny. And when you're an executive, what you want to do is highlight and showcase the value that you bring, because you're thinking about your next job, you're thinking about your future prospects, you're thinking about serving and being seen in the place that you are in. So the content that you post there is content that highlights your knowledge, it's content that shows your networks, it's content that makes people think, oh, when we're hiring, this is the person we should start with, or makes headhunters want to come straight into your inbox. If you're an entrepreneur, however, you're trying to make sales. So you really want to focus on what it is that your business, what value your business delivers, as opposed to you in your personal capacity. So if it's a product, if it's a service, that's what you want to focus on. And then influencers are selling audiences. And that's why influencers can create controversy and post really personal stuff, because the whole idea of influencers is that they want more and more people to be curious about what's going on in their lives so that they can have bigger and bigger audiences. And it's the audience that brings in the revenue for the influencer. So those three roles have very, very different strategies on social media. And of course, all of those roles have to be populated. And what that means is there's pressure to keep your content going. And the best way that I've found to do that is to batch your content. So at the beginning of the month, you can write 4 articles and schedule those on LinkedIn, for example. Or you can sit on a Sunday afternoon and make maybe 20 Canva posts and schedule those for Instagram. You can schedule on the platform. You can use third-party tools to schedule. A lot of them are free, certainly for the volume of posting that an individual would need. And I find that that keeps you organized so that on a day-to-day basis, you're just going in to comment, to engage, and to make sure that everything is working the way you intended. When it comes to using ghostwriters, I would say no, because what you really want to do is showcase your intellect, showcase your perspective, your opinion. And that's the value that you bring in your individual capacity, is your own ideas, perspectives, and opinions. So it's a little bit tricky when you're now getting somebody else to develop those ideas for you, unless you have a really good system for doing that. And then finally, I would say, don't worry so much about followers. Worry more about getting to the right people. You don't want to be talking to 500 people if only 50 of them are your people. You would rather be talking to 50 people and know that those are exactly the people that you should be in conversation with, because then your engagement rates are much higher. And that's what you really want, because what's the point of talking if no one is listening and no one is talking back?
Oh, fantastic. A quick one. Are there any third-party tools that you recommend for stacking posts and content?
Yes, so there's Hootsuite. I use Metricool, which is free for the volume of content that I produce, and it works beautifully. And it will do your Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. If you don't mind posting those in the chat for anyone who's interested. And again, to our audience, please share in the chat if there are any other tools that you recommend that you've used. Kosi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would also use Later. That's another one that I use in terms of scheduling posts. That's a good one to use.
Fantastic. Again, please put that in the chat so that folks can see what it looks like. Okay, I'm gonna be a little naughty here and sneak in a question. Relatability. We know that Black women face stereotypes, what's called the sapphire caricature. We are aggressive, we are abrasive, we are too extra, too damn much. What do you think about navigating that? Is that something Black women should be trying to tone down, or is it, you know what, take us as we are? And from a executive position, what are your thoughts on that? How should we care about being relatable? Should we not care? Then, but let me start with you. You work with executives across the continent.
You know, I find that in Africa, women are much more likely to hold back. So they're often not seen as that aggressive or pushy. It's almost like they have an opposite problem where they're not coming out enough, they're not outspoken enough. So I would say it's most important to be authentic. I always say on social media, you should say and do the things that you would do in the office. Yeah. So just treat it like you're in the office. So if you would share pictures of your children in the office, you can share them on social. If you wouldn't do that in the office, you shouldn't do it on social, especially if your account is not private.
Okay. Kosi, let's hear from you.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I have to be transparent about that. Yeah, it's a pretty mix in regards to just if the relatability part in terms of like Black women executives. I feel as though in terms of especially colleagues and friends I know in those positions, I feel like the hired positions, a lot of them don't care because they're at that point where they have that position where they don't care. But the ones that are trying to move up into those executive VP positions, they feel as though they still have to finagle and be a little bit quiet. They'll have their accounts on private. They won't post, certain things, even certain things on their LinkedIn because they just don't want to, rock the boat as much or get into a confrontation. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question before we go into closing out. Standing out and pitching yourself. Kosi, how do you effectively position yourself within your industry or niche to stand out amidst competition? And related to that, how do you rebrand if you're shifting to a new industry or a new sector? And then what are some of the best practices for crafting an elevator pitch that really communicates your personal brand and resonates with your audience? Let me ask those three, and then I want to ask the C-suite. When you're in the C-suite, but not the CEO, where do you go from there, and how do you plan where and how to show up? I want to ask both of you that question together. But for now, Kosi, tell us about standing out and pitching yourself and positioning yourself within industry or transition.
Okay, well, in terms of like in your niche, like definitely, obviously, identify unique selling proposition. Like for me, like I pitch myself as I'm a publicist that promotes mission-driven brands. Like that's always been my niche. That's the way that's the way I do it. That's the way I always promote my clients. So I always tell people to just go in with that. In regards to just like rebranding, obviously research the industry. I think for Black women, I always like going into like Facebook groups or Reddit groups in terms of finding people in that space that are Black or people of color and finding out like who those people are in terms of like getting insights from them, I think are also very important, as well as, of course, like researching it only because you really do want people you could relate to and also getting their insights as before you just kind of go, deep into it. I think is also very important. Obviously, like updating your brand assets, profile, refreshing your resume, updating your website that's going to a new direction. Communicating your vision is also very important, like in terms of like why you're shifting industries. Networking, extremely important, connecting with professionals in that sector, attending relevant events, seek mentorship. I think I would make sure mentorship Black women in that industry. I think it's also very important. In terms of like the best practices for like an elevator pitch, I always like keeping it to like 30, 60 seconds, identifying key points, your name, current role, expertise, basically just what you're seeking, what you're offering, the audience, practice, obviously rehearse it, look at yourself in the mirror, practice, what's the call to action, which is very important, just like, why, scheduling, meeting, connecting on LinkedIn, what's the next step?
Fantastic. Tembe, do you have anything to add?
No, I think she's pretty much covered that one.
Yeah. And again, okay, I have a question. Sorry. And again, I'm misusing my privilege, but we've spent a lot of time talking about branding online, which is a really important part of building global careers. But what are your thoughts about personal branding in person? And and this is again alluding to the hair, the fashion. I remember a LinkedIn conversation that I saw with Black women afraid to wear bright colors because it might be perceived as too much. We know that with the Crown Act across the US, Black women on braiding hair, we know about the young man in the US who got kicked out of school for having locks. I'm curious your thoughts about that. And I know for sure this is going to have geographical challenges and differences being in a Black majority country versus African Americans, who are 13% of the US population. But I'm really curious about the in-person elements of it. Let me start with you, Tembe, and then Kosi. And Tembe, I'm going to also, and this is cheeky of me, but a lot of our companies keep us, have adopted. I have a friend who's in Kenya's judiciary, and they are not allowed to wear African print, can only wear black, blue, navy blue, or gray. Talk to me about what advice do you have for sisters working in the African context, in still facing some of those policing of our bodies?
Yeah, it's really a mixed bag, and it depends very much on your industry and your employer and your sector. So in some cases, you will find even dreadlocks are not allowed. So a woman who wants to wear her hair in locks must wear a wig on top or must wear braids over her locks and that sort of thing. I would say I would take it in stages. So there's a stage in your career where high compliance moves you forward. And then as you become more and more senior, there are rules that you can start to break because you've earned the right. So, for example, with dress code, when you're the executive director in an NGO, for example, and a nonprofit, you can come to work pretty much in slops and shorts and whatever you want to wear, at least here. But if you're in middle management, you haven't earned that luxury. You haven't earned those privileges. And you've got people that are reporting to you that are very close to you in terms of seniority. So they're constantly watching you, constantly challenging you in a way that they're not doing with the executive director. So you really want to keep your freedoms limited. But the more senior you get, the more you can really, I would say, do whatever you want. And that is kind of my my approach to that. Yeah.
I would.
And then also,
sorry, finish, please.
Just to remember that building your personal brand isn't always a visual thing, even offline. Because, for example, I built my brand by writing a column in a national newspaper for 3 years. And the fact that I was sharing my opinion every Friday in 900 words kind of built my predictability. I was sharing my opinions. People could see my perspectives. And that opened up a lot of opportunities for me, which I'm still enjoying to this day.
Oh, powerful, powerful. I was going to say, as you get more senior, I think there's also an obligation to challenge those codes that are oppressive.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that.
Kosi.
With me and my experience, I feel as though it was always a management decision. But I felt as though, like, I guess, dealing with microaggressions and also from colleagues and friends, you always felt pressure to dress a certain way or have your hair a different way. Like, I remember just having pulling my hair back a lot because I didn't want to have my hair like this, and it seemed distracting. And I joke with my friends, like, my edges just started growing back normally because of it, because I kept pulling my hair back so much, like, because I didn't want it to be so distracting for, my work colleagues. And now I think there's so many challenges. There's so many people challenging it that no one, it's not as a big deal anymore because there's so much media against it that we are wearing our hair more natural, that it's not much of a big deal anymore in a professional setting, which I think is great, because it wasn't like that even like 5 years ago before the pandemic.
Oh, fantastic. And now I'm gonna bunch two questions together for both of you. When you are in the C-suite, but not the CEO, where do you go from there? And how do you plan where and how you show up? Again, from that personal branding perspective. You've got aspirations, you're senior, but you're not in the big top seat. And tied to that, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting on their personal branding journey? Whether they are already in an executive role or on their way there, but they haven't been doing all the things you've talked about, especially online. Let me start with you, Kosi, this time.
I could go with when you're in the C-suite, not the CEO. I think define what you want to do next in your career. I mean, whether it's just like aiming for the CEO role or transitioning to a different industry or focusing, do you want to be a board member? I guess like just having a sit down with yourself and figuring out what's next. And what does that look like, a personal development plan? Just like thinking about like the skills and experiences you need to do to achieve your goals, or, extending your education or certifications or new projects to fill in these gaps. Maybe it's increasing your visibility, contributing to publications or speaking at events or more thought leadership activities. And in terms of just like advice to someone who's starting out in a personal branding journey that I had to figure out myself is to just do it. Just like getting that one post up. You don't need the ring light or the extended thing that's on TikTok shop. Just just like take the post and, take it from there. And that's, and you'll just get better each time. And that's it. Like my first Kosiar's PR post wasn't like the best like post, but you know what? It got my work out there. And ironically enough, that's how I met Leanne. She said she was following me for a full year, just like because I was just showcasing my work. And I didn't know that. I was just focusing on just getting my work out there, posting my PR tips, and that's all I was just focusing on, just getting my work out there and just wanting people to see it. And I think that's what you have to do, and just focusing on my audience, like connecting with fellow PR people and talking about their engagement. And I was highlighting them on my Instagram stories. And I just think that's what you have to do, is just kind of just focusing on you and why you want to do this, the why, and not focusing on that other person's content or seeing this, or, seeing this person's Instagram, and just focusing on why you want to do it for yourself is like the best advice. Of course, like get feedback and want to improve too and take constructive criticism is going to be very important too. And you can't go wrong. You will find your audience.
There's something really powerful you said about folks are watching you that you don't know are watching you. And I think that is the key to why personal branding is so important and why this conversation has really leaned into the online part of personal branding, because that's the biggest audience. But that piece, someone could be watching you for a year before they engage you. That is so powerful. Tempe, talk to us.
Yeah, I would definitely say, you're talking about somebody watching you for a year. Somebody could be watching you for 5 years, tracking your career, checking your highlights, and, deciding that this is somebody that they want in their lives. I think also as you plan your career, you definitely want to go back to that purpose question, because that why is the center of everything. It's am I preparing to run my own business, for example, versus am I preparing to sit on somebody's board, or am I preparing to segue? A lot of people get to 50, 55, 60 years old. They're tired of a lot of what they've come across in their career. They've, earned the accolades and the awards, and they're thinking, I would like to maybe teach massage or do Reiki or whatever it is, because there's just that feeling that after 20 years in this career, I'm ready for something completely different. So depending on what that something is, you can also want to start inserting that. So I was on a retreat this weekend, a Reiki retreat, once in a while, so that you start introducing those new aspects of your life into, or new aspects of the direction you're going into your existing content plan. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. I'm just going to make up a hypothetical. I am 62 years old. I'm retiring. And what I'm really interested in is serving on board and building a legacy, consolidating my legacy. What would be your prescription? I come to you, Tempe, I come to you, Kosi. Kosi, how are you advising me? Let's start with you, Kosi.
What would I advise you in terms of like what
Where do I start?
In terms of like
62. Yeah, like I want to build my personal brand focused on my legacy, to consolidate my legacy of a 40-year career. And I want to leverage that onto to serve on boards, of paid boards, to fund my retirement. What
I
advice?
would connect you with nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
And I would try to see if I could get you to speak on a gala first, like from just thinking off the top of my head. Yeah, get you on a few like speaking, like a few galas, a few and I think they do like breakfasts during that time too, in terms of like what nonprofits will do in terms of like their fundraising season, and seeing how you could help with that. I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out the right words. Like I know there's like fundraising seasons happen during the springtime in the US, and I would see how you could get actively involved during that. And we also figure out what you would like to what do you like in terms of like what makes you passionate, and identify the nonprofits that connect you with that.
I love it. Legacy consolidation, giving back, and getting Black women onto podiums. Tembe, I come to you. Where are you starting with me?
So I'm assuming you're in Africa. And so I would start you with the LinkedIn account, and I would have you posting some career advice on there, maybe every couple of weeks. I would get you to start a mentorship program for younger women coming up, so that you start to build a community that's following you. So junior managers, middle managers, senior management, other women that are going to be influencers, in the next level. and then building a community around that. And that on its own is going to raise your profile. And then just working that very consistently. And I think you will find that from that community, people will start asking you for an article. Can you speak here? Can you, contribute there? And then I would expect that the invitations to boards would come soon after that. But the legacy would really come from the mentorship.
I love this. I love this. I want to sign up. If we had more time, and we're right at time, if we had more time, I would now ask you about executive. I'm 55, I'm CEO. I want to build a personal brand because I want to maybe become CEO of a next larger organization and get on some paid boards. What would we do there? Actually, 30 seconds. Is the advice different?
A little bit, I think, because I think you'd be much more active. So you would be going to events, definitely. You would be strengthening your networking skills. You still have a lot of energy for schmoozing. We mustn't forget that there is a life and a place to build your brand offline. So yeah. So I would increase those things, those activities. And then I would maybe also pick up Instagram. It's a personal favorite for me, but I think it's a little bit more fun and it's very accommodating of all age groups, which is really great.
Fantastic. Kelsey, I'm sneaking in a last question here.
Okay. The same question?
Yes. So I'm in my 50s, I'm CEO, but my aspiration is to join a couple of paid boards and become CEO of a larger organization.
Yeah. So obviously, of course, like utilize your your LinkedIn. Yeah, obviously. I'm assuming you'll be active on on Instagram. We would be using that. I definitely think that doing some LinkedIn posts, like talking about your transition in terms of like doing more bigger and better things would be informative to do. And also me at being more of like a publicist perspective, like pitching you to more localized stuff in terms of in your area, as well as like industry-based publications, I think would be more essential.
Fantastic.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, Tembe.
Write a book.
Okay.
A book will give you so much mileage for years and years and years to come, particularly if it's a book about your subject matter expertise. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Lots and lots of love for you and appreciation for you both, for the gifts that you have shared with us, the gift of your knowledge and wisdom. I just want to thank you both for your graciousness and your wisdom in sharing this. Please follow us on LinkedIn and sign up on our website for news. That's where we post all the latest updates and engagements. Thank you all so much. Have a great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you.